What's up, fungal associates? Welcome to Completely Arbortrary, the podcast about trees and other related topics. I am one of your hosts. My name is Alex Crowson, and I am sitting across from, as always, renowned dendrologist, heck of a man, Casey Clapp.
Wow, Alex, that's really sweet of you to say. Thank you.
You're most welcome, Casey.
I have bad news for you.
Uh-oh.
Right before we started, you said, Casey, are you ready? And I typed some things and I pressed enter and I said, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm not ready.
Okay. Well, I'll fill some time. This is like when on Wayne's World, when Garth is on there by himself.
Yeah,
and he has a meltdown. He doesn't know what to do.
Doesn't know what to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is I am ready. There's no problem. I'll do this afterwards.
Okay.
I'm getting a PDF of something called the Measuring Guidelines Handbook, of which you'll become very familiar in moments.
Is this the new Sibley guide? Is this like going to replace the Sibley guide in our canon?
Yeah, everyone. With this one, though, they're going to pay us to push, unlike Sibley. Ungrateful bastard.
As far as I've gone with David Allen Sibley is to DM his Instagram account and ask if he would like to be on our show. It probably went unseen, like many of our DMs go.
Yeah, it's true. We're working very hard, though, just to be very clear.
Casey, we have a tree to talk about today.
Yeah, we sure do.
It is one that I have heard of before, but don't have much familiarity with.
Okay.
It's been requested much.
Yes, it is.
And upon doing my bit of research for Crowson's Homegrown Trivia, which will come later, I have learned to already like this tree.
Wow.
It is known by many names.
I was gonna say, choose anyone. Choose anyone. I can see you trying to say, which one do I want right now?
There was a wheel spinning in my head as I was...
You're going to set a precedent right now, Alex.
This is the Tuliptree.
Well done.
One word.
One word, tuliptree. 2 words, tulip poplar.
Yes.
2 words also, tulip yellow poplar.
Yes.
That's 3, but
yeah,
really,
I've seen yellow poplar.
Yeah, yellow poplar. But you know what I learned about this is that name, so Liriodendron literally means the lily tree.
Right.
That was provided by none other than Carl Linnaeus. And the OG writer of our commonly accepted taxonomy in a scientific way.
Right.
He called it that because obviously we call it the tulip tree. They thought the flowers back then looked more like lilies. Kind of is, who cares? Neither here nor there.
Sure.
But that is kind of what people call it. They say that because they think it looks really pretty and nice as a tree. But in the trade for like lumber, it's more common to say yellow poplar because they don't like to add in the lumber trade often like specificity to things. Like yellow pine is like several different species of pine tree. In fact, sometimes then you just say fir and it's like a bunch of different true firs and Douglas fir, and they kind of homogenize things for the trade.
Is it because in wood terms, those trees that you might call fir trees all behave the same way?
Exactly. They have a lot of like wood properties that are similar.
Okay. Well, Casey, I have plenty to say about the wood.
Ooh, I want to hear this, Alex.
But first, let's imagine, as we do every episode,
Okay.
that you and I are walking through an Appalachian forest.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Appalachian
Forest.
Yeah.
Appalachian.
Yes, the way the French originally named it.
And we come across some tulip poplars. Some tulip trees, excuse me. Oh, this is going to be a mess. I can just tell.
Hey, it's all right. You can choose any name. This is your own Alex taxonomy, remember.
Let's settle on one to quell confusion.
Tulip tree.
Tulip tree.
That's what I think.
We come across some tulip trees. Casey, let's ID this tree.
Well,
This
Alex,
tulip tree.
It is a gorgeous tree. So I'm going to start with the bark on this because these trees get huge. And so the first thing you're probably going to see is a bark of this tree. And this bark looks actually quite similar to the tree of heaven bark, in my opinion, except it gets a little bit more furrowed, a little bit quicker.
Is this sort of the diamond pattern?
Yeah, exactly. It's got that kind of diamond pattern, but instead of staying like kind of flat, the diamond pattern of the tulip poplar gets way bigger and thicker with huge ridges on it.
Cool.
And again, it looks like there's a bunch of like crossing X's that kind of come up in that diamond pattern.
Yeah.
But it's a really light gray, very uniform, going all the way up the tree, and you can see it like moving and getting bigger and thicker as you go down, but it still maintains that easy pattern the whole way up.
You had used a great describer to describe this this diamond pattern as like on the back of a truck.
Yes,
like a toolbox
the
on the back of a
plating.
truck. The diamond plating
Yeah.
pattern.
That is what I see.
think that's pretty great.
I would say maybe it actually might be almost a little bit inverse, like what's the embossed versus the opposite of that?
Exuded or something?
Let's say exuded.
It's not that. Instead of the diamond shapes being coming out, they're inset.
Yes.
So the parts coming out are the lines between the diamond shapes.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Wow. I hope that was there were more pros to that description than cons.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, let's just assume that there is.
Okay.
So you see this bark, you look up the tree, and you see some leaves coming down from some very unlikely but possibly low-hanging branches.
Here we go, leaves.
Oh my God. I call these, and this is how someone in one of my ID courses years ago, not that I was also taking, they described it as the Felix the cat.
Yeah.
And I call it a cat face tree, and this is how we remembered what it looked like.
Yeah.
So if you have this, I'll describe the leaf. It's alternately arranged along the stem. It is a simple leaf, and it is in one of the rare boats that it actually has a truncated top. A truncated top of a leaf or tip is like flat. This one, not only is it flat, it's actually a little inverted.
Right.
So usually you'd expect that main vein going through the middle.
Yeah.
That would be the longest point, right? From the bottom of the petiole out that main vein. You usually think there's going to be some tip, the tip of the oak leaf, the tip of the maple leaf. Mm-hmm. In this case, there's actually veins that come off left and right at essentially 45 or a little bit less degree angles. And then they grow up like two little cat ears, higher than that middle point. So they would have that term for it.
It's a really unique look. I've never seen a leaf look like this. It almost looks like an oak leaf, like a red oak.
Yeah,
but if you snip the middle tip,
you just
the
cut
middle
that off.
lobe.
It's exactly right.
And so it's got this little cat ear shape to it.
And then Felix the cat of the cartoon fame had like those jowls that came out.
Little tufts of hair on his cheeks.
And that is what this has. And so if you just draw a little smiley face and some little whiskers coming out, two little eyes, it looks exactly like a Felix the cat face.
Just wonderful. I'd like to give my first Crowson stump of approval to this leaf.
All right. That's a good one. I'm gonna give you a good Fagoosh.
Thank you.
I had to remember exactly what my sound was. I knew I was going to make a sound, but like if you think too quickly about something, then it doesn't come naturally.
If you think too quickly, it doesn't
or like
come
not too quickly. You don't think quickly enough. You just or you think about it.
You overthink it.
Yeah, you overthink it. I was overthinking it, and I was like, "Fagunch? Oh shoot! What am I supposed to say? I forgot."
Fagush.
Fiduciary.
Yes, these leaves are one of a kind and
they
so
really
cool. Are there any other trees that have this sort of inversed tip?
There are. I can't.
Or what we'll call an innie.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of innies out there. There certainly are some that I don't know about. The tropics again have just about everything all over the place.
Sure.
But there's a species of tree that they believe this actually came from, which is some kind of curious taxonomy in the fossil world that they call the Archianthus that they found, and there's a article we'll link to from 2013. It shows the leaves of these, which actually look kind of like a horseshoe, where the middle like almost stops, and then the veins on the left and right just keep going up.
Wow!
Like it looks like a double samara from a maple tree, or something like that. Big mustache, with a petiole at the other side.
Oh, like a handlebar.
Yeah, exactly. So there at least used to be way more plants that look just like that. But for the most part, it's kind of rare, especially in North America. You don't see very many plants that have that truncated top like that innie.
Right. Interesting. Well, Casey, let's talk about the namesake of the tulip tree.
As we should.
The fleur.
Oh, Alex.
Not a tulip, I guess.
Not a tulip. In the technical sense, it is, in fact, neither a tulip nor a poplar. Probably not a tree, but we're gonna say it's a tree. I'm just kidding. It's a tree.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry.
I really thought you were throwing a curveball.
No, it is. It is. In fact, as we will discuss, it is a very it fits the definition in spades.
I'm excited to hear why.
Well, Alex, this flower
it has a trunk.
It has a
and
trunk.
leaves and is tall.
And is tall. Any other questions, Alex? Okay, so this flower. Have you Googled it?
Yes.
Okay, everyone else out
Casey,
there.
hold on.
Have you Googled it?
Usually I have to Google things.
Uh-huh.
I know the Tuliptree's tulip.
You pre-Googled.
No, I've seen it in real life,
You
motherfucker.
have?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I go outside.
Oh, hold
I look
on.
at things.
Hold on, Alex.
Wait, the only alternative to me having Googled this was Googling it before? Really?
Well,
You didn't
know,
just maybe try to assume that I'd seen one in real life?
It's mostly that many times we talk about a tree, and I'm like, "Have you seen this?" And you're like, "No, I've never seen it." So I jumped the gun there. I admit the podcast regrets the air, Alex.
You should apologize.
I'm sorry, I did.
No, Casey, there are several tulip trees on the street adjacent to my building.
Yes, there is.
And wow, these flowers are also unique, I feel.
Yeah, they really are.
They also seem sort of old. They look archaic to me.
Honestly, that's a really good descriptor of it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the anatomy of this flower.
Okay, so this flower is so there's a little bit of taxonomic, like who done it, what's it. They believe that this is initially a very old flower that developed from the magnolias.
Right.
So it's in the magnolia family, but
Magnolia.
Magnoliaceae.
Magnoliaceae.
Yeah. You're right, but you got the genus correct.
Yeah, I was stopping at the 2/3 way through the word to let you finish it.
Thank you so much. Honestly, that's called partnership, Alex.
Thank you.
That's what that is.
Yep.
So it has this central main kind of pyramidal growth in the middle.
Yeah.
And that is what is the pistil. So that's where all of the pollen would actually grow or go into and pollinate the middle of that kind of little top. On the outside, just outside of that, is all the stamen that release all the pollen. Then outside of that is all the petals. And the petals usually have like a creamy white top or tip of them, and the base they kind of fade to this like fiery, reddish orange looking flame effect, and it looks really, really similar to a modern day tulip with those the bases of the tulip petals having those like almost they look like fire. They actually do look like flames kind of shooting up, and then they transition to a different color at the top.
Is that like a form of variegation?
Yeah, I think it would be. Yeah, in
Okay.
a technical sense. Yeah, or just a coloration. A lot of times flowers do that, and to the insects that they're looking to get in, it actually almost looks like a landing pad. Like it calls them in and points to right where the goods are.
I want to say about this flower. I think it also looks much like the leaf. It looks very unique to me.
Yeah.
This middle section, this cone in the middle, and then these stamen
Yes.
surrounding it, and then the petals on the outside, and kind of it's. I've been rewatching a replay of the classic 1994 point and click adventure Riven. Are you familiar with this game?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember Myst?
Yes, I do remember
It's
Myst.
the sequel to Myst.
Oh,
So you're
I
more
see.
familiar with it than you think, Casey.
Turns out I am. My sister really liked playing that. I could never get on board because I just couldn't figure it. I didn't have the patience to sit there and riddle my way through it.
Oh yeah, I was like 7 years old when I attempted to play it, and I have a very heartbreaking story about Riven, but it's for another time.
Oh, okay.
But to me, this flower looks like a puzzle of some kind. Like you would come across it, and it's like this has this strange sort of like ethereal quality to it. Like, ooh, who made this? Who put this here?
Yeah, why?
Yeah, like I look at it, and it's just very curious looking.
That is a really interesting. That's a very interesting perspective.
It doesn't look like many other flowers I've seen.
It truly doesn't. And honestly, that I think is really what sets this apart. And I think as we talked actually earlier this week, we chatted about the fact that magnoliales are like the oldest kind of plant. So if you're essentially a flowering thing, you're in this big, I think if you're an angiosperm, they have named the entire, it's clade. It's not the family, so it'd be maybe order. What is it? Kingdom, phylum. Maybe it's the phylum.
Yeah.
It is named after magnolia because magnolia is accepted as one of the most primitive style of flowers. Like it basically is the OG thing, and every other kind of flower basically is allegedly some kind of variation on that through time.
Right.
And so 100 million years ago, tulip trees existed. Their lineages were fully formed. And because there's 2 species, I should say, that are still extant today, one in China, one in Eastern North America. So this tree is an old style. So you're exactly right. Like it kind of looks ancient and old because it is very likely ancient and old and hasn't really modified itself significantly over the last several million years.
My favorite part of that, Casey, of the ancientness of the magnolia group, including the tulip tree.
Yeah.
But magnolias, I know this about southern magnolias specifically, that they are pollinated by beetles.
Yes, and I don't know if these are. I would bet that they are, in fact.
That'd be interesting to find out.
It would be interesting. So I'll do some Googling on it, but I didn't focus on that today because this flower is just enough in and of itself to look at. But 2 other things that are fun about this little flower. So that middle cone, that is essentially a bunch of different carpels like we talked about last week. So that would be what is considered a multiple fruit, where there's a bunch of different individual, actually, no, I'm sorry. This is an aggregate where it's one flower with a bunch of carpels in the middle. And then as the whole thing gets pollinated, the flower petals kind of close up, kind of go and degrade and look like they just kind of go get old and die, and then they fall away. And then this cone, this entire time, has been growing from maybe an inch or half an inch tall.
Cone-shaped thing.
You're right, thank you. This cone-shaped thing, which is, in the middle.
Yes.
That is the ovary, and that's the receptacle where the flower is kind of attached to. And then, it gets bigger and taller, and then splits off into a bunch of individual little samaras. And all those little things will just fall apart piece by piece, and those are all the seeds.
Is this the brown husky thing?
Yes.
Okay, this thing...
With all those long, like straw things coming out of it?
Yes. Yeah. This same thing happens with magnolias.
Yes, except the magnolias get bigger and that whole thing doesn't end up falling apart. The magnolia gets bigger and then opens up and the seeds pop out. So it's all stays together, which is why the magnolia is this aggregate fruit as well.
Right.
But it's all fused together and it doesn't split apart. It just splits open.
Okay.
So yeah, you're exactly right. That's fantastic, Alex.
Casey, how about some Crowson's homegrown trivia?
Hey, that's what I'm in the mood for right now.
All right. Well, I have a thesis statement that I'll get to at the end of this whole thing.
Oh.
But I'm gonna give you some ideas first of some different facts about this tree.
All right. Hit me with it.
All right. So let's start with the wood. The wood is extremely prolific.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. But it's never, I wouldn't say from my research that it's chosen for its good looks. It's chosen for its workability.
Yeah, that's true. We should add, it grows really fast.
Yes.
It's a very fast growing tree.
Yes, it grows very fast.
Yep.
And it is it grows very straight and tall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you can get a lot of lumber out of one tree. And it is what is this? Early succession tree?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So
well
in a place that's what is like cut or burned?
Yeah, some disturbance has left it able to be colonized by new plants.
Yes, and the tulip poplar will be among the first to take off.
That's exactly right.
It's got the gumption.
Yeah.
So I would call this utility wood.
Ah, yes. Okay.
We talked about utility bark. That's just sort of there.
Yep. Just does a purpose.
I'm going to call this utility wood because here's a short list of the things that you can make with this wood.
Okay.
And see if you can find a theme. Pallets.
Ooh, okay.
Crates.
Okay.
Furniture frames.
Uh-huh.
Paper. It's a good paper tree.
Okay, makes sense.
Plywood.
Okay.
houses.
Whole houses.
Yeah. Baskets,
Okay.
flooring, and fencing.
Ooh, so everything here seems a utility, which
Yes.
I believe was your first note.
That's right.
But also a lot of it seems like it's the we don't care what it looks like.
Precisely,
It's all like
Casey.
either hidden or painted or underneath something.
Purely utilitarian.
Yeah.
You don't
all
need
right.
a shipping crate does not need to look beautiful.
Yeah, you just needed to do its job.
It just needs to be a shipping crate.
Gotcha.
Historically, and I'm sure today also, the Cherokee tribe of North America and modern like bushcraft communities really revere this tree. This is a utility medicine tree.
Oh wait, are you coming up on this thesis statement?
We're getting there.
Okay.
So as far as medicine, the tulip tree was used for parasitic worms, diarrhea, cough, rheumatism, gastrointestinal distress. Hey, give me some of this stuff.
Yeah, right. Just go eat it.
Fever, snake bite,
Wow, that's everything.
poultices, fractured limbs, boils, dermatological issues. This is a one-stop shop. Anything that ails you.
Wow.
This is
I
like
had no idea.
If you go to the doctor and they don't really know what's wrong with you, but you obviously have symptoms, they'd be like, tulip tree.
Yeah, what it used to be, they would just give you a little cigarettes and cocaine.
Right.
Actually, so that's the same for the tulip tree. Well, it looks like your nerves are a little shaky. Here, take some American spirits.
Yeah.
Calm yourself down.
An ounce of opium.
Yeah, just to get yourself straight.
Yeah, so tulip tree, excuse me.
Yeah.
Utility medicine, utility wood.
Wow. Okay. All right, this makes sense.
My favorite bit about this, because it grows so fast, it's so light and flexible.
Yep.
I read the word elastic,
Ah. Okay.
easily worked.
Yep.
Perfect tree for dugout canoes.
Yes, I read that also, which I thought was apparently they called it like when first settlers came by and they saw the Cherokee, probably specifically, they made so many dugout canoes with this tree alone. They called it the canoe wood tree,
Wow.
or just canoe wood.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, so if you're in a pinch and need a quick canoe, chop down a tulip tree,
yeah. Dig it out.
dig it out, put it on the water, you're good to go.
Have I ever told you I really want to do that? I would love to take a class or learn about how to make that.
Wow.
Over here, the same tree or the same canoe would be made out of western red cedar.
I thought
most
it
of the
might,
time.
Casey.
Yeah. Well, some people also would use birch, but they use birch bark to make canoes
Okay.
also. But that would be so interesting to A, see the difference, and then B, to actually use one and,
Yeah.
and make that happen. That'd be so exciting.
Yeah, and the grain is also really fine.
Yeah.
So it makes for good water sport.
Okay, so this is, I think, you're all right. I'm well. Actually, you haven't explicitly said it.
Well, there's one word that kind of sums up the uses of the tulip tree, and that is utility.
Utility tree.
Utility.
It's a utility tree. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's a utility. And with that, go ahead.
I was gonna say, ironically, we don't use it for utility poles.
Wow,
yeah.
that is the ultimate irony,
Yeah,
Casey.
exactly. Honestly, good for it. I bet you the tulip poplar's like, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, don't label me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be a part of your system.
We don't want to pigeonhole the utility tree by making utility poles. That's a little too on the nose.
It's a little, yeah. It does. It ironically, I think it narrows it too much.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well done.
Casey, we got lots more to say about the tulip tree, but it must happen after a short break. We'll be right back with more Completely Arbitrary. Welcome back to Completely Arbitrary. Today we're talking the tulip tree, aka the yellow poplar, aka the yellow tulip poplar, aka the tulip poplar,
AKA the utility tree.
aka the catface tree.
There's a lot of names for this, Alex.
Send your other AKAs to arbitrarypod@gmail.com for what you call this tree.
It might be featured on our next Instagram post.
Casey.
Alex.
Yes?
Oh no, I was responding to you.
Oh, I was setting you up to talk about this tree.
Ah, all right. Let me give you some numbers here. Let me just give you some numbers.
Numbers, no context?
No context.
All right, let's hear it.
362 inches.
Okay.
139 feet. 78 feet.
Okay.
521 points.
Okay.
What do those mean?
Let's see. Can I carry that? Add that. I'm going to say 11 meters is the answer.
All right. You are 100% incorrect.
Wouldn't that be amazing if I wasn't?
Yeah, I would have been like, oh my God, how did you do that? Yeah, that would have been
Like
pretty
a
stunning.
mentat.
All right, so here's what those all mean. The trunk circumference of one tulip poplar, tulip tree, is 362 inches. Around is what that is.
All right, I'm going to do some quick math, and by that I mean pull up a calculator. 326 inches?
Yep, 326. I'm sorry, no, 362.
Okay, it's about 30 feet.
30 feet. Now that's 30 feet around. On that same thing.
What the hell? 30 feet?
Yeah, around.
Oh my God.
Now, I want to hold on. It actually, that makes it feel way bigger. You're familiar with pi, PR, or pi r squared and all that? Diameter, essentially. So if you were to take that circumference and go into a calculator again, that's like circumference to diameter. Let's see what that is.
Okay, so I've put in 30 feet circumference with it, and it gives us a diameter of 114 inches.
114 inches. Why would they do that? That's very frustrating. Changing the units on us.
9.5 feet.
Very, very unscientific. 9.5 feet, Alex.
Yes.
That is pretty impressive. That's a diameter. And to me, diameter is way more impressive as like a number. Even though it's not quite as big, it actually gives me something to like conceptualize.
It's way easier to visualize.
Yeah. And then because of this, it's like 3r pi or 3 pi r, something like that. Mm-hmm. No, what am I saying? Pi is 3.14. So if you are trying to calculate the diameter from the radius, the radius is usually 3 times ish the circumference. The circumference is usually 3.14 times the size of the diameter.
I'll be honest, I'm losing interest really fast.
I know, it's okay.
It's draining like a tub.
This is the best part about our show. Is I
feel
can
like
just bring you down to the brink and then pull you back up, Alex.
It's like a real hero's journey.
Yeah, it really is. So what I'm describing to you right now is the way that we calculate, we being this group called American Forests, calculate the champion trees of the United States.
Champion tree.
Yeah, champion tree. Hold on. Oh, is that a plug in that drain I just saw? Yeah. Looks like things are filling up again, Alex.
Ooh, Alex likes the word champion. What is a champion tree?
Oh, a champion tree is the biggest, is the only way you can do it. Like that's the best way to say it, but it's really not even that accurate.
Okay.
It's the biggest tree of its species in the United States, specifically the political territory boundary lines of the United States.
Okay. Yeah, so a champion tree is just the largest specimen of a species of tree.
Yes.
On record within the United States.
Correct. But as I was kind of saying, there's a little bit of a misnomer there. So you remember that very last word that I said? 521 points?
Yes, what is points?
So that is how this whole thing is calculated. So you take X, which is the tree trunk circumference in inches. You multiply that by Y, the tree height in feet. And you multiply that by Z divided by 4, which is the tree's average crown spread divided by 4.
Now, this is the definition of completely arbitrary.
Yes, it is. Oh my God, Alex, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Holy shit.
That equals the total points, of which
The points.
the tulip tree, Liriodendron tulipifera, one that is in, I think it's in Virginia somewhere.
Okay.
This tree is the champion tulip tree at 521 points.
Wow.
Yeah, not the biggest. There are more taller trees. There are more wider trees. I should rephrase. Someone's going to be upset that I just did it. There are taller trees.
There are wider trees.
And there are trees with probably a bigger spread on average. However, when you do all that point stuff, adding it up, it's those things all weighted in a certain way to make it the champion tree. So it's like the biggest and the tallest and the widest in terms of crown spread.
This tree satisfies the algorithm.
Exactly. It is exactly an algorithm, I think, by literal definition.
Yeah.
And so when we first wanted to talk about this tree, I was really excited because I'm like, oh, this tree's great. It's like, it's the biggest tree of the broadleaf trees in North America.
Wow.
And you were like, wait a second. What about the beech tree? Because I think I asked you, which one do you think is the biggest? And you said, probably a beech tree.
Yeah. In my experience, beeches are fucking massive.
They are. They're really massive trees, but their crown spread is way bigger than probably what most tulip poplars would be or tulip trees would be. But the tulip tree would grow way, way taller.
Okay.
I think the tallest one is like 190 feet tall. It is the tallest broadleaf tree in Western or in anywhere in North America.
That's hard to even comprehend.
It's really huge. Imagine all of our conifers that grow out here. Think of like the biggest one, and the tulip tree could be like hanging out with it.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Some of our really, really big ones, a lot of our Douglas firs can get well over 240, 250 feet tall. But if you go to a reasonable old, reasonably large size forest, it will be nothing but gigantic conifers. And then if you had the biggest tulip poplar, which grows in the Appalachian Mountains and the Great Smokies, it would be brushing shoulders with these giants. You know, still maybe 40 or 50 feet short, but it would be taller than the biggest big leaf maple, to my understanding. It'd probably be taller than all the alders, any of our Oregon white oaks, things like that.
Yeah, so trees with needle-like leaves.
Yes.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Conifers.
Conifers.
Yeah, we'll just go conifers.
Sure. Their strategy for growth is a spear headed into the sun.
Correct, yeah.
And broadleaf trees generally are more they more outstretch their arms.
Yeah.
Instead of grow straight up. But it sounds like the tulip tree sort of has both of these worlds happening within its genes.
Yeah, it kind of does, but it actually took the first form that you're talking about. And what that is two different terms of the way trees grow. One is called excurrent growth, and then the other is called decurrent growth.
Okay.
So an excurrent growth grows straight up. It has that central main leader with branches that come off of it, whereas a decurrent growth grows out like this, where you have everything kind of growing up and out at the same time.
So a tulip poplar is excurrent?
It has more of an excurrent form, which matches that of all the conifers, which have that nice, strong central leader, whereas the other ones, it's the classic kids draw trees. You have a triangle on a stick, and you have a circle on a stick.
Right.
That would be excurrent versus decurrent, respectively.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's why it can get so tall. It's just like it's competing, and it's just growing straight up. They usually have that nice big central trunk. They grow fast. They grow straight. They're good lumber trees, like you said. And so that got me thinking. I was like, wow, okay, cool. And I think the only other trees that get like up to this height easily are like the eucalyptus trees. A couple other trees, maybe from some old European forests. You're certainly going to find one or two down in the tropics that get, really huge and high really fast. But for a temperate tree, the tulip tree is like, pun intended, head and shoulders above the rest.
Okay.
They just grow massively. So then I started looking around and I was like, okay, cool. What other are the big trees around here? Because, you look up big tree and then you obviously come all the time to this group called American forests.
Can we pause real fast?
Yeah.
What was the pun that you were intending?
Oh, the pun? That was head and shoulders above the rest because they grow so tall. That's not really a pun, is it? They grow head and shoulders above the rest.
Trees don't have heads and shoulders.
They don't really, do they?
I don't mean to call you out, but I did bump up against that, and I haven't been able to hear anything you've said since.
It's an anti-pun. That wasn't a pun. They grow head and shoulders above it. It was a metaphor.
Oh, okay. It's like an anti-hero of puns.
Sorry. I didn't realize that threw you off so hard.
It's the Walter White of puns.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's exactly what I just did.
Anytime someone says pun intended, I pay very close attention.
Yeah, okay, that's
I want to
good.
hear this pun.
Yeah, I want to see how good it was, pun intended. I guess Head and Shoulders. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, I thought that maybe I was making some thing about them being taller than everything else.
Sure.
Which I was, but it's not a pun.
It's not a pun, Case. Where did we leave off?
We were leaving off at American Forests.
American Forests.
Yes. Now, have you heard of this organization before?
No.
Well, Alex, American Forests is an advocacy and kind of a research group that's been around for a really long time. And they initially are trying to, way back when, basically make advocacy for forests and for trees back when no one really cared that much about it. They've been around for, I think, a couple hundred years. Just 100 years, maybe. So,
like an OG conservation group.
Yeah, exactly. But they've also are they're a conservation group, but like they're kind of based out of everywhere, and so it's they've evolved more recently to kind of focus what they're talking about. Like I remember being like, oh yeah, American Forests. We've looked them up before, just for looking for, hey, who should we reach out to about what we're doing, something like that. And I was like, well, honestly, we shouldn't really go for them because they don't really. And then I paused and I was like, I don't even really know what they do.
Can I read their mission statement?
Yeah, please do.
American Forests creates healthy and resilient forests from cities to large natural landscapes that deliver essential benefits for climate, people, water, and wildlife. We advance our mission through forestry innovation, place-based partnerships to plant and restore forests, and movement building.
There you go. That's a lot. It's a lot of stuff.
That's a big mission.
Yeah. But historically, the only thing that I really knew them for is like the thing that they did, aside from all the rest of this, is like, an advocacy kind of group in a way, was they manage and maintain the Register of Big Trees.
Wow.
You ever heard of that?
No, a second thing I've never heard of.
Well, Alex. So this is kind of essentially where I started like shooting off into as we were doing some research on this. There is what we call a register of big trees.
I have found the register, Casey.
Oh my God.
It is a 6-page Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, wow. You found that?
With maybe 6-point font.
Wow.
There are a lot of trees here.
There's a lot. And you can, I am up on the American Forest website and I'm looking at their kind of list search area.
Yeah.
So you can filter it by genus, scientific name, common name, the state, or by the order. You can do like, what's the height? What's the highest? What's the crown spread, trunk circumference, points, and that kind of thing.
This is very interesting.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
it's like a game.
But man, so I was looking into this, and a lot of people are always like, well, we got the champion tree. And like, it's a big point of pride. Each state has one. The state of Oregon has one that's run by a group of arborists, actually local in town here, that collectively have a nonprofit called Ascending the Giants. And they are specifically trying to find all of the champion trees in Oregon of all the species that you can essentially count. And so then you're like, okay, well, cool. How do you measure these trees? How do you find them? They're just like crazy people. They're like, hey, let's just go out into the woods of this old growth area, talk to these old timers who are like, oh yeah, there's a big old tree up there and there's a spike. Go look at that.
They're like Sasquatch hunters.
They're like Sasquatch hunters, yeah. And quite literally, they're looking for the biggest footprint of a tree.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, Casey.
And I know actually several of these guys, yeah, they're very ironic.
Pun intended, I mean.
Oh, good for me. We're going to get here somewhere. So they are, they're just really, they're very cool guys. They're arborists, and you can do so much to try to figure this out. So I ended up clicking through and I said, well, where do you find the guidelines? Like what do they do and how can I maybe get involved? They have all this stuff on the AmericanForest.com, but I ended up just going through it a little bit because I realized a lot of people have no idea how to measure a tree.
Yeah.
You know how I constantly would, actually, I guess not with you, but in anyone else, I would talk about regulations based on size of tree. That
I'm sure we've talked about this.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we have, but maybe
I mean, you and I personally.
Yes, probably.
Off pod.
Well, it turns out that a lot of people are like, wait, you mean like height? I'm like, oh, no. If it's 20 inches in diameter. And then I realized, a lot of people don't know. How do you measure diameter?
Yeah.
Well, there's diameter tapes that go around it, but then the question is, well, where around a tree? Do you do it at the base of a tree? Do you do it at a certain height up the tree? Is it, what if there's a flare on the tree? What if there's 2 stems that come out from the base? Where do you measure it then?
Interesting.
What if there's 30 stems that come out from the base?
Then it's a shrub.
Exactly. Then it's a shrub, even though it's 600 feet tall.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that this has all been codified years ago. In fact, a lot of this comes from the traditional forestry, where they had to say, well, how are we going to know how big a tree is? Because that's how we would pay someone to say, you're going to make this much, or you have this much board feet. How do we measure that? Because we pay you per board foot of, timber on this stump, all this kind of weird jargony stuff.
So was there like a Linnaeus of tree measuring?
There probably was. I don't know who it was, though.
All right.
But most likely, but they essentially said at 4.5 feet, the term used to be breast height, where, a forester would go over and they say, well, breast height, and you just measure it, at your chest.
Okay.
But then people are like, well, I'm 6'4", this guy's 5'4". The breast height is now 1 foot higher or lower per whoever's measuring it. So they decided to essentially standardize that at 4.5 feet above average grade.
Interesting.
So then the next question is, well, where's average grade? Out here, most of our trees that are the big ones are growing on steep slopes, really steep. Sometimes not that steep. Sometimes like you can't even walk without having yourself be tied in or something.
Oh my God. And
they would go down and they say, well, we have to figure out where to measure it. Where is the slope? Do we measure it from the top of the slope? At which point, if you go up, the 4.5 feet from the top of the slope is going to be a smaller diameter than if you go down 4.5 feet or measure it from the bottom side of the slope as the tree gets wider at the base, right?
Right.
So if you measure it at the bottom, they assume that there's kind of a natural, normal trajectory of how much loss there is in diameter as the tree goes up.
Sure, it's not going to suddenly get really, really, really skinny.
Yeah, even though a lot of trees actually do. Giant sequoia is a great example, where at 4.5 feet, they can be like 6 feet in diameter, but then they quickly taper down to like 2 feet. Then they grow straight up at 2 feet for like, a couple, 20 or 30 feet tall.
Interesting.
So you end up getting a bunch of nuances that can mess with your measurements and really like exaggerate things one direction or another.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately what this whole thing tries to figure out. There's an 86-page document going through everything about how to measure a tree's height, how to measure a tree's circumference, how to measure it with different things and different techniques. Are you climbing the tree and dropping a tape down? From what location do you drop it down? What if the tree is bent over and it has a really intense lean? Do you measure the stem and how long that stem is, or do you measure straight up to straight down? They have this all codified. They know they've decided on a scheme for everything.
What I like to imagine is that if you're measuring trees and you're like, oh, this one's tricky.
Yeah.
We got to call in our rep. And a representative comes out in like a uniform.
Yeah, like a little American Forest insignia.
Yeah.
You can't get within 6 feet of them.
And he's like the wolf from Pulp Fiction.
This also comes up a lot in arboriculture, where if you are measuring something that is important for some rule, in Portland, a big threshold is 12 inches and 20 inches. So if you're measuring it and the tree is so close to being 20 inches, if you measure it perfectly at 4.5 feet on flat ground, pretty defensible. If you measure it and you move it up 1/4 of an inch and it becomes, say, 19.5 inches, or you move it down 1/4 of an inch and then all of a sudden it's 20.5 inches, which one is exactly that? What if it's on a slope? Where are you measuring it from? And it becomes really complicated, and a lot of times it can be the between 12 and 20 inches in the city of Portland. You can essentially remove a tree at 20 inches, in certain instances, the city can say, no, you just can't remove that tree. In other instances, you would have to pay inch for inch to remove that tree at 20 inches. So it becomes all of a sudden something where everyone has like a monetary sort of stake in it being one way or the other.
I have a question, and I don't want it to sound insensitive, and I am not looking to ruffle any feathers, so if your feathers get ruffled, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Turn off
If you were hurt by my statement, I apologize. That's not what I'm saying. Why does any of this matter? Why are they doing this?
For like American forests?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
I'm like this specifically. I think American Forest has a great mission statement, and
Yes.
I approve of all of those acts. But this specific champion tree thing, it seems like the kind of thing that forestry people wouldn't like.
Oh, you mean like coming up with all these specificities and things?
Quite specifically giving points to trees.
I see.
Much in the way that we do on Completely Arbitrary.
Yeah, so this sounds like, as you noted earlier, this is the organization, this is the OG lowercase Completely Arbitrary, lowercase arbitrary. Yeah.
These seem like the kind of people who would email us and say, I don't know why you guys have a point system. It degrades the meaning of the,
Yes,
So
I see.
why are they... Why do this?
So that's actually a really fun question.
For the sake of data?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I read through their stuff a little bit, and again, you guys we have their website linked on our website, but they essentially, like 100 years ago, wanted to generate some enthusiasm for the public to basically go out and inject yourself into nature, go find these trees. Like, hey, no one knows what the biggest tree of this species is. No one knows what the biggest one in the United States is. No one knows which state has the biggest one. I think at the very beginning, we talked about Douglas fir, and we joked a little bit about this rivalry that happened between Oregon and Washington, where they essentially, one Oregon tree, everyone's like, this is the tallest, biggest tree. Then all of a sudden, Oregon had the cup. We had the biggest one. Then Washington's like, no, we found the biggest tree. So there's a little bit of this like local pride, I think, that comes with it. So they kind of tapped into that and said, who's got the biggest tree? And then us being Americans, everyone's like, well, we got the biggest tree, and kept going. So I know it's a little bit cringy when you listen to it, but what it has done is it's made everyone go out and actually look at their trees. You know what else it did, Alex? It showed how many trees we've lost because everyone's like, oh, there's a bunch of big trees everywhere. And then they go out and measure. They're like, oh, no, there's not a bunch of big trees everywhere. There's like one big tree on this really old farm or in this forest that was never cut or in this forest that was cut. What were they like before that? What was it like where now there's just a field? There must have been these big trees everywhere. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it kind of gets you to open your eyes a little bit and say, wow, okay, so this is the biggest tree. There's only 2 of these in this entire state that are this size. Oh my God, what have we done? And, you kind of get once you get the data, it's fun. And, some people approach it just like you're saying, like, just let's go out and make it happen. Go find what is the biggest tree for the sake of having the data. And there are other people who want to go out and be like, see, this is all we have left.
It's a bit of an undercover boss situation.
Please describe what you mean.
Undercover Boss is a reality TV show.
Okay.
Where the CEO of a company goes and puts on a disguise.
Yeah.
And pretends that they're a brand new employee at like the lowest level to see how their company operates at that level.
Yeah. I remember when Kylo Ren did that.
On SNL.
So good.
Yes, so you are familiar with the premise.
Oh, yeah.
So the CEO often goes in thinking my company is well run, it's fantastic, everything's great, because they're the CEO and they have very little perspective on the bottom of the pyramid.
Yeah.
And then they go work as a fry cook and they're like, oh my God, the system is broken. We don't pay these people enough. It all sucks. Our healthcare service is bad.
Yeah. Get in their Maserati and never look back.
So that's, in the show they quote, have an awakening sort of moment.
Yeah, okay.
So that's what they're trying to do here is to get people to go out and see how bad things have gotten.
All right, that's kind of true. Or if it's not, I don't want to say that is their like explicit mission. You obviously read
Yeah.
that. But I'd be willing to bet that there's a lot of people who have essentially been like, yeah, as a byproduct, you kind of go out and you either experience it and just are happy you're experiencing it, or you go out and it shows you, wow, okay, there really is not that many, and what are there half the time are like a quarter dead or something like that.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so it's
you've
pretty
answered my
interesting.
question.
Okay, good. I'm glad to your satisfaction.
We'll see.
All right.
Wait for the
okay.
cone score.
Yeah, we'll wait. Well, so I was looking through this because, as I noted to you earlier, that champion tree, the gigantic Virginia tulip tree, is like 139 feet tall, which is approximately 52 feet shorter than the tallest one. So it's like, well, wait, why is that the champion? You can go through this and find a bunch of examples where the tallest tree is nowhere near the champion. Even in the redwoods, the tallest redwood tree is like, I think, several feet in diameter smaller than the biggest redwood tree, which would be the one that has the most volume, right?
Right, because there are 3 measurements in play here.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's a really curious thing, and I could never figure it out because I've been not involved, but I've read these things about champion trees. One book called Trees to Know in Oregon, which I think is now Trees to Know in Oregon and Washington, or maybe just the Pacific Northwest, put out through Oregon State University. They have this list, and you can go to the Oregon one. Also, are listed on our website, and it goes through and shows all these numbers for a bunch of different species, either native to Oregon or just growing in Oregon. And you're always just like, well, that's not the biggest one. That's not. Well, I guess it is, but what is this? What is this point system? Like, is it fair? It's very arbitrary. Usually it's very high, but it doesn't, it's their best way to homogenize it when you have a bunch of different trees that grow in different ways and do different things. You have this X-current versus a D-current growth pattern, and some get really wide but not very tall. Some get really tall but not that wide. It's like, well, how do you compare those, So it's it's the best they could do, I suppose.
Oh.
Well, we chose golden cones of honor, so I mean, I guess at least we put some thought into it.
Oh Lord!
Capital letters.
You just made so many enemies. Casey's opinions do not represent the opinions of the podcast.
There's a disclaimer here. That's brilliant. Well, if anyone wants to get an idea of how this works, there are so many very particular things in this 86 page. Like there's
86.
It's 86 pages. And I went down through the measuring tree height section. And Alex, there are equations here that I don't even know how to figure out. Like there's sine equations. This is just one. The computations are D3 equals 37.5, cosine negative 10.5 equals 36.872. And then they do that for a bunch of other things, and then that's like how they figure out the size and like essentially intense trigonometry.
Wow.
To stand and measure a tree without actually climbing up it. It's pretty intense, and they say this is how you do it. Then they go through and say, well, here's some detriments to doing it this way, and like show if you have a tree that is bent over but then has a big poof on the side away from where it's bent, then it looks like it's taller than it actually is or shorter than it actually is. It's very complicated.
Casey, it's not complicated.
What?
A 0 to 10 scale.
Oh, Alex, of golden cones?
That's right,
ones?
Casey. It's time for a review.
That sounds great.
Of the tulip tree. Here's how it works. We're going to give some final thoughts on this tulip tree, this utility, and then give it a rating of 0 to 10 golden cones of honor. Casey, as our resident expert, we begin with you.
All right. I love the tulip tree. It's one of my top favorite trees. I'll give you some reasons why.
Okay.
You know how the leaves fall in the wintertime?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the process.
Autumn time, yeah.
In the fall.
Yeah.
Hey, is that why they call it fall?
I think so, yeah.
Holy shit.
Wow. I can't 100% confirm that, but I'm pretty sure.
It's canon.
Wow. So they, the leaves that come from the tulip tree, they hit the ground and they decay almost instantly, and they're full of nitrogen. So when they hit the ground, they just become like bing, everything eats them up really fast, all the decay and insects and things like that. So they're really good for habitat. He also noted that they come in as an early successional tree. They grow up really fast. They last for a long time. They're a utility tree. They also help build habitat really quickly and easily. Funny thing, if you plant them here in Oregon or almost anywhere, they're great street trees except for one big downfall, which is they, for whatever reason, Alex, are just a buffet for aphids and scale insects and the like.
Okay.
You know what they do, right?
The aphids?
Yeah.
Well, yes, they urinate.
They do. And
all over the ground in cars and stuff.
You're exactly right.
The sticky, it's sugar.
It is essentially
sugar water.
that. It's sugar water. They drink, they tap into the leaves or the plant itself, and they suck out the juices. The sap is essentially what it is.
Yeah.
That sap is mostly sugar, just like, maple syrup. They will take the trace nutrients that they can get from it, and they have as much sugar and water as they could ever need. And then we call it honeydew. They flick it away. They let it drip away.
Yeah.
Now,
such a beautiful name for such a disgusting thing.
Yeah, right. And it's it's not bad. Ants love it for sure. But I lived in a house, had a big, beautiful tulip poplar right in the back corner. You could sit and try to think how the thing would go. Every now and then you'd get some shade from it, but it really was, it was a big, gorgeous tree. You could see it from miles around. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go sit outside my backyard. I'm going to do this thing. Maybe I'll get on my computer, watch a soccer game, just hang out, read a book. Middle of August, bright, beautiful, sunny day, nothing else. And it was physically raining on me.
Oh my God.
I was like, wait a second. Is there a sprinkler? Someone... No, water. There's not a cloud in the sky. It can't be raining right now. Oh my God. I had to move. It drove me so crazy.
That's grotesque.
I couldn't do it. And Alex, I have a big constitution for these kinds of things. I don't mind being dirty. I don't mind insects raining their urine and feces on me. You heard it here first.
Wow. You know what Casey wants for Christmas?
I couldn't sit in my backyard. I didn't like it. I was like, we got to put something up. And it got over everything. Like there's this little film on top of all the stuff, all the leaves from everything underneath the tree, like in the little garden boxes and everything. I had to say, usually whenever someone complains, when I was working at the city at the time, they'd be like, well, who cares? This tree, it's a growing tree. And I'm like, listen, sap coming onto your car, I don't care. It's not an important issue. Just move your car, wash your car, just shut up, and you can't cut your tree down. I now have a place in my heart. I regret being so flippant.
Oh, wow.
That sucked. If it's on your car, I still don't really care. But if it's in your backyard or your front yard and you can't sit out there without having something over the top of you so that you don't get completely decimated by actual rain in the middle of the summertime.
So you had to,
oh my God.
Let me get this straight.
Okay.
You had to experience the thing that people were complaining about.
Yes.
In order to understand their complaints.
Yes.
So I guess you learned some empathy that day.
Yeah, I learned some hard things.
So you're not like a naturally empathic person,
yes.
I guess is what you're saying.
I am. I actually usually take the opposite. I usually assume that everyone is just lazy and complaining, and they don't work hard at all.
You gotta pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah. You know what? If you just worked harder. No, you're right. You're right, Alex. I gained empathy there. I know. Sorry, you're not right that I'm a non-empathetic person.
I'm giving you shit.
Well, so in that regard,
insect shit, which you love.
Thank you. I love it. He's literally rolling around in it right now.
Oh,
what a pig.
God.
So this one's really, really challenging for me because I love this tree. I think it's a great tree. I love the flower. I think it's excellent in every way except for that big, very personal downfall.
You do seem troubled, like you don't know which way you're going to go.
Yeah, I should have given my review or my numbers 10 minutes ago, and I'm still talking, trying to calculate in my head. Alex says as he looks at the clock. I'm gonna give it a 6.2.
Oh wow,
6.2. It feels low. I think it should be higher. But you know what?
Okay.
It can grow, and I love it. Okay, 6.7. 6.7. I'm gonna keep it there. I can only do one reversion.
Okay, give it half a cone.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a half a cone.
6.7 golden cones of honor.
6.7 because elsewhere in the world, it's a spectacular tree.
Okay.
What do you think?
I have no personal attachment or unattachment to the tulip poplar.
I think this is gonna make you good. I think you're gonna have a much more dialed and measured review here.
I have my number and very little explanation.
Ooh, okay.
It's 8.0.
8.0, right there.
8 golden cones of honor.
Okay.
I like this tree. I think it's unique. It's very old. I love ancient trees.
It is ancient eats.
It's got sort of like, it's got a kind of a double whammy. It's got a unique flower and a unique leaf. I love uniqueness in trees. I don't like a tree that just looks like every other tree.
Yeah.
Come on, stand out, impress me.
Yeah.
That's what you're here for.
That's what you're here for. What else are you growing for?
Yeah, I don't have much more to say. 8.0 golden cones of honor for the tulip poplar. That was our review of the tulip tree. I forget the Latin name.
Liriodendron tulipifera.
Did we ever say that this episode?
Oh, yeah. I said it a few times, I think.
Okay. Casey, it's time for a game.
What?
Wow, Casey's jaw dropped in a fashion. I challenge you to a duel.
Wow. Alex, I accept your challenge. However, my hands are very soft.
Hold on, let me get my iron gauntlet that I can slap you in the face
Okay,
with.
please do. I will take off my silken glove.
However, Casey, just like other royalty, you and I cannot fight ourselves.
I don't want to.
Fortunately, we have the option to choose a champion tree.
Okay. All right. I like this. I appreciate the idea of we would fight to the death, but under no circumstances do I want to die nor kill you.
No.
So
that would mess up the bloodlines.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll hire somebody else.
It would throw the realm into chaos.
It would. We can't have that happen.
Casey, we're going to choose, you and I.
Okay.
Are going to choose a champion tree.
Okay.
From the American Forest lists of champion trees.
Wow.
However, this battle will take place 1 week from today.
What?
If you are listening to this on the Thursday of its release, you, the listener, the fungal associate, have 1 week to send us in an email, arbitrarypod@gmail.com, your choice for champion tree.
And why?
And why.
Why will it be the capital C champion of the champions? Also capital C.
We're talking physical strength, emotional strength,
stamina,
agility.
I think we should also have a beauty contest along with it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's we know you're strong. We know you can lift up a lot of leaves, but
are you stunning?
Do you have the dexterity to draw a beautiful portrait?
Wow.
Just saying.
Like a wisdom check.
Yeah, exactly. You can have like a big, strong, tough tree, but if it's not beautiful, who cares? Am I right?
So here's how it works, Casey. We're kind of coming up with this on the fly. Let's just say it.
Yeah,
we had this idea, but we need to workshop the idea a little bit more. That's why it sounds so awkward and stilted. So we're basically gonna have a tournament of champions.
Exactly.
And so you, the listener, are gonna send us your picks for your favorite tree.
Yep.
Casey and I are gonna collect all of the submissions. We will then go through a list and select a bracket of 8 versus 8.
Exactly.
Over the next couple of weeks, we will have a few matchups.
I'll tell you all about them.
And we will decide who wins between those matchups and progresses to the next bracket.
Exactly.
At the end, it will be 1 versus 1 in a tournament of champions trees. And we will choose the ultimate champion tree.
I think this is perfect.
And so what we're looking for from you is a species or a specific tree, a specimen.
Exactly, which also would be a species, but you can be that, precise.
Yes, however granular you want to get.
Yep, and then provide us some amount of rationale. We don't want paragraphs.
No.
Bullet points maybe.
Tweet version.
Yeah. If you go more than a tweet, we will actually just delete 241 word and on, and then just read to there.
Hey guys, I'm a big fan of the pot.
Why did you waste your words? And then send it to us. Give us a couple reasons as to why you think that champion tree will beat all the other champion trees.
Yes.
And then, again, go to our link in our website. It is listed as official register of champion trees. Go through there, find one, send it, tell us why.
Peruse the list. Send it to arbitrarypod@gmail.com. ARBORTRARY pod@gmail.com. And in the subject line, it would be extremely helpful. How about we'll say all submissions must include the subject line Tournament of Champion Trees.
Yes.
How about that, Case?
Easy.
Wow.
Easy.
We just basically had a brainstorming session live on the podcast.
You're welcome, everyone. Honestly, this is what people want. Do it live, just like that.
And I'm very excited to see. And I want to say this too. We're not linking your name as the listener with the tree. You are hereby nominating one of these trees.
Yes, correct.
So it's not like you and another fungal associate are going head to head in the very end.
Yes, it's
it
the
is
tree.
two trees that are being nominated.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you want, let us know if you want us to say, hey, we've had this person, some of these people. Because if it's just one person says a tree, we might shout you out.
Yeah.
If it's a million people, we might shout out a few of you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. With that, let the tournament begin.
Boom.
See, here's where brainstorming beforehand comes in handy, because this started as a duel.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it's a tournament.
And now it's a tournament. Honestly, that's the way all good champion things should be, you know?
Yeah.
Like someone was like, wait a second, what if that duel was like 10 times those duels? That'd be sick.
Why don't we do this, but 31 more times?
Yeah, exactly. And then everyone's like, well, actually, it sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for this, Alex.
I am too,
I love
Casey.
making brackets and tournaments.
It's going to be a lot of fun. The Tournament of Champion Trees 2022 begins now. Casey, it's time for our completely arbitrary Q&A. This week, our question is from Alexa Glock. Hi, Casey and Alex, says Alexa.
Hi, Alexa.
Hi, Alexa. I've got a question about hickories. Here in my backyard in Virginia, I've got a bunch of what I think are pig nut hickories
The old pig nut.
growing all together along a slope. Right now, just one of these trees has catkins. Why don't the others? As a side note, the tree that has catkins now also had a ton of nuts in past years, but I honestly can't remember if the others had nuts too. What gives? Thank you, Alexa.
That is a very curious question.
So only one of these hickories growing on Alexa's slope is growing a catkin. Is growing catkins.
Growing the catkins.
That's the new reality show. It's like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, growing the catkins.
Growing the catkins. Welcome.
Casey, what do you think? What would cause one tree to perform its yearly thing and not the others?
That is very interesting.
Have I stumped you, Casey?
You might have, because I could come up with a couple reasons, none of which would maybe be the reason.
Let's brainstorm as we just did with our game.
Exactly. So here's the big thing. So my first question was like, well, are they monoecious or dioecious? Monoecious, of course, meaning one house, which means all the flowers, male and female, are on one tree. And then there's dioecious, which means there are two trees. One has the male parts, the other has the female parts.
And what did you find?
It is a monoecious tree. So hickories are all monoecious. However, the big question is, why then would only one tree of all of them be growing and making flowers while the others don't?
Yeah.
I wonder, though, if they're all the same. That's the next thing. Some trees basically don't get to sexual maturity until they're of an age.
Oh, so this might be the eldest of these trees.
Yeah, exactly. This one might be the post-pubescent tree.
Okay.
All the rest are like, nah, I'm not making trees right now, or I'm not making any sex parts.
Call Suzanne Simard. We found the mother tree.
Yeah, we did. We literally found it, right?
Wow.
So in that case, it's very common for trees to essentially need to grow and put all their efforts towards life first. They're like, okay, before I can reproduce, I need to build up enough reserves. I need to get tall enough to compete, and I also need to get myself sturdy enough that I'm not just going to break over.
Okay.
So they have to kind of get those things over. Once they have mastered that, they've built up enough things, it takes X amount of years. Then once they're like 20 years old, then they will start producing flowers. I'm making up the number there. So that could be the biggest reason why. It might be that it's the biggest tree, so it just has the most access to light and other resources. Otherwise, it could be genetic, where maybe this tree is just, it's going at it really hard, really fast. All the rest are kind of like, man, I'll take my time. I'll get there sometime.
This could be a champion tree.
Yeah, this could be a champion tree. Have they measured it? That's what we need.
Follow up, Alexa.
Yeah, please send us an email. Champion hickory tree question.
Well, there you have it. Okay, yeah. So it could be a couple different things.
This could be a couple different things, and I'm not 100% sure. But here's another quick thing. It looks like they only start to bear seeds about 30 years old. So it could be that they just need that much time. All the rest aren't quite of an age.
I'm going to make a ruling on this.
Okay.
I like this theory that this is just the oldest of the lot and it is at maturity. There you have it. You got some stuff to work with, Alexa.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
If you have a question about trees, email us at arbitrarypod@gmail.com. That's ARBORTRARY. And please remember to send in your nominations for the Tournament of Champion Trees. We will start that next episode.
That's what I'm talking about.
So get those submissions in now. Should we give people a longer amount of time?
Yeah,
Casey?
here's what I think we should do.
Okay.
You send in your submissions, and we will announce another bit of it. We'll say, okay, here's what we got so far, and tell everyone what the stakes are. Then the week following, that's when everything's really gonna go down.
Okay. Well, I will say a couple of things.
Yeah.
We should have done this in March for Mulch Madness.
Obviously.
And it might be good to give people I'll say this. We'll keep you up to date on the Instagram.
Yeah.
Because we can update that every day, but we only put out an episode once a week.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll make an announcement.
Yeah. So keep an eye on the Instagram for all this bullshit. Casey.
Oh man, Alex, that could be a slogan for our entire podcast. Just to be clear.
We have fun.
What an odyssey we've been on today.
Yes, Casey, I'm happy to have talked about this tree. It got sort of a middling score from you, but I could tell you were pulled both ways.
And yeah, I'm very torn. Very torn.
And sometimes you just got to play the cones as they land.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to do it. You just got to see it. You got to call it as you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well.
And with that, I didn't mean to end it on a somber note, so let's not. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Completely Arbitrary. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Yahoo! Completely Arbitrary is produced by Alex Crowson and Casey Clapp.
Our artwork is by Jillian Barthold, and our music is by Aves and the Mini Vandals.
And you can support the podcast at patreon.com/arbitrarypod.
And find additional readings at completelyarbitrary.com. Thanks for listening.